Department of Fish and Wildlife. And just to make sure we get confused, we just changed our name as of January 1st. So we used to be the Department of Fish and Game, and now we are the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. So, but I'm here to try to answer some questions about our role. I have a limited amount of information, but I think most importantly, we want to recognize California Department of Fish and Game, Fish and Wildlife wants to recognize the heartfelt loss what we've all experienced with one of our law enforcement brethren with the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. And our hearts go out to the families of those officers, the officer who was killed and the officer who was wounded. So it's been a very sad day in law enforcement, but what I want to do is try to answer some of the questions that I can bring you up from the very first contact to when we last lost contact with our suspect. Okay, so basically I want to try to fill in some gaps. Basically what happened was the suspect was driving the purple Nissan. There was the bolo out for the Nissan. And one of our wardens was driving, actually there were two wardens driving in one patrol truck. They were driving down Highway 32 and they were approaching two buses. They passed the two buses and they noticed tucked in behind the bus was the suspect vehicle. They immediately attempted to do a U-turn, but because of the road was narrow and they couldn't get right on top of them, so they put the radio call out that they were engaged in a pursuit of the suspect vehicle. The suspect quickly realized he had been identified. He passed the two school buses. By the time our wardens got up, he was in front of the two school buses. He then turned onto Glass Road. Our warden, the initial wardens, the two wardens in the one vehicle who initially found him, didn't realize he turned on that Glass Road. They continued on in front of the school buses. Of course, they put out over the radio what was going on. Three additional wardens in two vehicles, so two were paired up and one was by himself, continued on. They ended up turning onto Glass Road. They were expecting to find the RAV, or I'm sorry, it's not a RAV. They were expecting to find the purple Nissan. They were looking, in fact, for this purple Nissan. The warden who was in the front was by himself. There were two wardens immediately behind him that were doubled up in their patrol vehicle. The warden who was in front noticed a white truck coming down, driving erratically at a pretty high rate of speed. Because he was drawn to this erratic behavior, he took a close look at the driver and recognized him as a suspect. Before he even had a chance to put it out over the radio, of course they're driving now in opposite directions again, so he's already passed the suspect vehicle. The suspect rolled his window down, and when the second patrol truck came up with the two wardens inside, that's when he engaged in a shooting with our wardens as they were driving. He did hit the truck multiple times. The wardens stopped their vehicle. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and take a drink. The wardens stopped their vehicle. That's helpful. At that point, where they did engage the suspect the second time, he shot at our wardens. They stopped the vehicle. As he continued around a bend in the curve, the warden had his patrol rifle. He went up onto a location where he could engage the suspect, and he fired multiple rounds at the suspect as he was driving away. It's unknown whether or not he was hit or how many times the truck was hit. That's all up in the air at this point. That's basically where Fish and Game or Fish and Wildlife wardens lost contact with the suspect. Of course, the radio call had gone out, and there's now the whole world's coming to help.
So was your understanding, sir, that there were two vehicles that the suspect was in? A purple vehicle first and then a white pickup truck?
The question was about whether the suspect was ended up being in two vehicles. The first was a purple Nissan, which he ultimately appeared to have been driving too fast, lost control of the vehicle, crashed it, carjacked the second white pickup, and then was fleeing the scene, which is when our warden noticed him.
Mr. Ford, let me ask you, when the original Bolo came out with that purple Nissan, did you hear, or did any of your wardens hear, that this 911 call came from two women who may have been held hostage, and they owned that purple Nissan, and one of the women escaped and was able to call for help, and that's how you guys got the original Bolo?
I'm afraid I don't know the source of the bolo. All I know is that when the bolo came out, everybody was looking for the purple Nissan, and that's when they noticed the suspect as he was driving to drive away.
Do you have any idea who owned that purple Nissan? Was there any inclination that this came from somebody who was carjacked, came from a 911 call, the source of this purple Nissan?
That I'm afraid I don't know the answer to.
And at the museum, how many rifle shots were fired?
Quite a few. I don't have that exact number, but he did engage with quite a few rounds. I'd more than 12 to 15. More than a dozen, more than 15, probably right around that area.
Were your officers able to tell what kind of weapon he was using based on the holes in the vehicle and the shots they were hearing?
When he did engage the second vehicle that he passed, he held a pistol out the window and fired multiple shots. And he hit the truck multiple shots.
What's your name again, sir?
Somebody's asked for my name again. It's Lieutenant Patrick Foy, F as in Frank, OY, with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Do we know how long time did it pass from the time that he changed from the purple Nissan to the white pickup? How did it?
I don't know the exact amount of time that transpired between crashing the purple Nissan and carjacking the white pickup, but it was relatively quickly.
You said the officer's vehicle was hit.
At least within minutes, for certain, but I don't know exactly how long.
You said the officer's vehicle was hit. How close did it come to hitting either one? So two officers in that vehicle, how close did it come to hitting either one?
Unfortunately, it was very, very close. All within the cab region, the light bar. There was several shots all around.
He's driving at a high speed when he's firing these shots?
That is correct. He was shooting as he was driving. Our warden did not engage out the window. He stopped the vehicle before he actually engaged with gunfire.
And were they able to see him go to this cabin that he eventually holed up in?
No, they never did. As he was shooting as he was driving away, and the suspect got away at that time.
Just to clarify, how many rifle shots did the warden fire?
All I know is I can tell you more than 15, but I don't know the exact number.
Does the warden, did the warden who fired those shots feel like he hit the suspect at any time? Obviously, he's aiming at the suspect as the suspect is driving off. He's a marksman, I'm sure. Did he ever give you any idea that, hey, I think I injured him, I think I hit him?
I'm afraid we didn't have any information to tell whether or not we hit the suspect. Our wardens are all trained on. Wardens are kind of unique law enforcement officers. We work alone a lot. We are issued actually 4 firearms, and one of them is a new firearm that we've just been recently trained on and issued, which is the firearm that he did engage the suspect with.
What is that firearm?
It's for those who are familiar with the AR-15, it's an AR-15 platform, but it shoots a .308 bullet. It's a very large, it's a pretty large rifle caliber relative to what most law enforcement agencies use.
And those are accurate, right? Those are very accurate.
We actually, over the last year, I just trained with mine about 2 months ago, and I think we end up shooting 350 rounds or so, all within the last year. So all of us have trained to become accurate.
Is that what they used against him?
That is correct. So we did. The warden did use his rifle to engage the suspect.
It is safe to say that.
Did the purple car? Did they find the purple Nissan?
That part of it, our wardens were not a part of that part of the investigation.
Do you know if the person that was carjacked, was it a he or she, and were they injured at all?
I'm afraid I don't know that level of detail either.
But it's safe to say that this warden probably struck that vehicle, that suspect vehicle, numerous times. 15 shots, upwards of 15 shots.
Mm-hmm.
You got to guess that he nailed that truck a few times.
Hard to say. I'm afraid I haven't seen the truck myself. I probably should have asked that question. I talked to the person's lieutenant, but I didn't ask him that particular question. I didn't want to say something that I can't confirm.
To be clear, there were 3 wardens, 2 in one vehicle and 1 in another?
Yeah, 5 wardens total ended up seeing the suspect. The first 2 that saw him in the truck, but ultimately he managed to turn on Glass Road before the others realized he did so. And then the other 2 who had followed him, or actually 3 in 2 vehicles, who followed him up Glass Road and ultimately engaged the suspect.
Did any of the wardens that actually saw the suspect get an eyeful of him? You know, basically see what he could have been wearing, maybe camouflage or anything that made them think, oh my gosh, this is Dorner, this is him, I saw him.
They were so close that he recognized his face, so he didn't have to see the clothing as much as he recognized it was.
They were sure that he was Dorner? They were sure?
They were sure enough to to put it out, and then ultimately the suspect started shooting at him. So they were.
Was he wearing camouflage?
I'm afraid I don't know that answer.
Did they specifically have eye contact with Dorner? In other words, Dorner looked right at them, they looked right back at him, and then that's when it all started.
I suspect that they were very close to each other, but they were passing each other at the same time. So whether they had that level of eye contact, I'm afraid I don't know. But
Can you give us a time of day? Can you give us a time?
that was 12:45.
And what was the elapsed time between like full contact?
Not much more than a few minutes, but I don't know exactly.
And were these wardens on regular patrol? Or
There were a total of 6 wardens who have been assigned to this manhunt since Sunday.
And they were part of that group.
They were part of that group, yes.
And could you take it again from part where they lost contact with them and then the other agencies took over?
Okay, so suspect, 2 buses come by. The purple Nissan was coming the opposite direction, so they passed them. So the wardens had to turn around and do a U-turn, and ultimately the suspect pulled around the buses and then took a right on, or not, I don't know if it was a right or left, but turned onto Glass Road.
And they kept on going.
They kept, and then our wardens kept on going. They didn't realize he took a turn on Glass Road.
Sorry, there was one warden who fired shots?
One warden who fired shots.
And what was the range approximately?
That's a good question, but it was a fair distance. The suspect was driving away as he was shooting at him.
So the warden was shooting at the moving gate?
Correct.
Yeah.
He was stationary as he was shooting at the moving vehicle.
Was he inside or outside his vehicle?
Outside his vehicle.
how many people were around when this gunfight was going on? Christopher Dorner and your wardens, were there people in harm's way, if you will?
He didn't describe anybody around, so but I don't know the answer to that.
On Highway 32, I think you said, not
This,
38?
actually, the exchange of gunfire took place on Glass Road.
So, sir, I'm going to ask you a question. Tomorrow I have to go to work to the camp, and Highway 38 is going to be open tomorrow?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. I don't know.
Thank you.
Can I go down right now or not?
Go down? I don't think they're blocking anybody from going downhill, but I don't know. I'm afraid I've given out all my cards. Correct. Foy, F-O-Y.
And your title, sir?
I'm a lieutenant.
No, I mean with the
California Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Fishing game.
I can, let me just